Welcome. Good morning, everybody. Super excited to be with you today. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So today I'm going to be talking to you guys about, let's see, let me get my stuff arranged here. I'm going to be talking to you about a series of early numeracy interventions. This is with the measures and interventions for numeracy development intervention materials that I have up on the web. I'm excited to say we have redone and we're going to launch all the materials that I'm talking to you about today in August. And so we're going to be covering stuff that's not on the website, as I'll have a disclaimer in the slides. But anyway, one of the weakest aspects of my program, because it was, it was initially started really to focus on basic facts and multi-digit computation. And a lot of it was really just timed practice and different activities to build that fluency. And so over the last few years, I've gotten a lot of feedback on from a lot of amazing teachers about how to, ways that we could go ahead and make this a little bit more user friendly for teachers. And so, I'm excited to show you guys the new materials, and I'm hopeful that my kindergarten and first grade teachers will find this useful. So before we get started, just welcome. This is just an amazing conference. I was fortunate enough to present here a year or so ago, and I just love the people they bring in, and so I appreciate all you guys attending. Also, we have some special guests, so this is being fed into an actual in-person conference, the Patton K2 Learning Institute. So welcome to you guys. And I really just want to do a special thank you to primary grade teachers. When we think about equity and really making a difference in kids' lives, it's so important that we get in there in kindergarten, first grade, second grade, so we can prevent and remedy student skill deficits. If we really want to do MTSS well, it really starts in those kindergarten and first grade years. Traditionally, when we would do MTSS, a lot of times it was almost a wait to fail model where we were, intervening and getting kids help, but a lot of times it was too late. Third grade, fourth grade. And so, I'm really appreciative and hopeful that these will help teachers get really good empirically empirically validated interventions in front of their kindergarten and first grade kids, and also provide them with a data-based approach so we can go ahead and implement those interventions and see how kids are responding, so we can determine needs that we can intervene on their needs. And to me, it's just a unique opportunity because, in those kindergarten and first grade years, skills are especially narrow. And narrow skills to me are really good as far as trying to figure out what works for kids. And so there are things that, if an intervention is going to be successful, you should really see some pretty good effects within, a week, 2 weeks at the most. And so I think it's really a great time because we can play around, with dose and different components and figure out exactly what kids need. So today I'm going to introduce the Facts on Fire early numeracy resources. And with doing this, we're going to provide a scope and sequence of critical skills to support numeracy. And we're going to establish criteria to interpret those skills. So in essence, what skills are we going to teach? When are we going to teach them? And then how do we know when we've taught those to mastery so that those are going to benefit as we teach new and increasingly complex skills? And so to do this, obviously, you need assessments to determine, where a kid's at, what they know, what they don't know, but then also after the intervention, see how they progressed in response to those interventions. And so Facts on Fire was designed to automatize foundational skills. And so how I describe this is it is it is not a core curriculum. And so everybody has their core. This will work regardless of what that core is. The goal of the Mind materials is to provide teachers with free and accessible resources so that they can identify usually 3 to 5 critical skills in their particular grade, and we make sure that students learn those to mastery. And so it is a supplemental program. Dr. Amanda Vanderhayden will often talk about this as a tiered as a 1.5 tiered curriculum supplement. And so again, traditionally when we think about our screeners in school, we do them in the fall, the winter, and the spring. And really, the best screener we can have is to do class-wide intervention. And with the class-wide intervention, we can look at the progress of every student in response to the same intervention, and it really allows us to determine those kids. Some of which will just, some come in with low exposure, but they learn very quickly. Some can come in with higher skills, but actually respond less well. And so, you're kind of triannual screeners don't necessarily pick that stuff up, but these kind of data do. And so it's a really effective and useful component of an MTSS system. And so with early numeracy, we're going to target gateway, number sense, and number combination skills. And these really are what some would refer to as tool skills. And so there's not really, so the gateway skills will look at oral counting, number identification fluency, and number writing skills. Number sense skills will, early number sense skills are really about like pairing dots to quantity, and then how do we combine different sets. So early number combination stuff, and then we move to, your basic computation skills. And so again, all of these materials are free now. They'll be free in the future. And then as you'll see, these are kind of standard protocol programs. And so the website is www.factsonfire.com. And so again, this disclaimer, I am presenting over materials that aren't up on the website yet. They will be up there in August of 2025. But I didn't want to present on stuff and then you get to use it next year and for the school year next year, and there's something different there. And plus, these are hopefully improved again to help teachers. So let's get to the scope and sequency with the mastery criteria. And so here is the Facts on Fire scope and sequence. And so as you see here, it's kindergarten, first grade. I included second grade here, but we have, again, oral counting, number identification in the first couple of months, and then you kind of put in number writing, accuracy, and fluency. November would be dot number, and that would be sums to 6. And again, that will be pairing number arrays with actual numbers. And then we'll have dot number total, where we take those dot arrays, we begin to combine those, and then we'll transition that to sums to 6, and then finally addition sums to 10 at the end of the year. And so when we've done this program in the past with kids, at the end of the year, we've had kids doing 20 and 30 digits correct per minute and sums to 10 by the end of the kindergarten year. And so if we get this early and we do it daily, we've seen some really powerful effects. So this is my prescribed critical skill and sequence, but what we really want are for, every school and every context is a little bit different. And so people can use this to go ahead, and we want them to kind of yoke this scope and sequence to their own curriculum, right? And we want to match that vertical alignment. And so if you're a first grade teacher, you should be able to go to your kindergarten teachers and say, what were those critical skills? What were those criteria? And then also, first grade teachers can say, this is kind of what we need. If we really want to take off in our core curriculum, we want a majority of the kids we're getting to be able to write their numbers at this type of rate, or be able to do basic number combinations. And so that's a really important, and then obviously that goes from kindergarten to first grade to second grade, so and up. And so the scope and sequence communicates, what critical skills need taught, and when these skills should be mastered. And then obviously we have to have criteria that we assess, so that we know when the skill has been learned, and we can talk or communicate what percentage of our students have mastered that skill. And so the mastery criteria here, digits correct per minute scores, oral counting, we want kids to be able to count 1 per second, number identification, identify a number per second, number writing accuracy and fluency, we want them to be able to write their numbers at the end of kindergarten around 30 digits correct per minute. So, be able to write a number every 2 seconds. The dot and number piece, be able to look at a number array and go ahead and identify that number at 20 problems per minute, which would be 1 every 3 seconds. And then the dot number total would be looking at 2 quantities, combining those for an answer, and that would be 10 per minute. And when we get, and I show you guys the dot number total kind of materials and activities, there's a lot going on in that one. You're going to be focused on math vocabulary and some other things. And so that's why, that's kind of the one skill that's the less fluency focused and a little more accuracy focused in all of these. And then obviously we got addition sums to 6. We want kids to at least 20 problems per minute, and addition sums to 10. Okay, and then as you see in first grade, that pops up. By the end of first grade, we want kids writing one number every second, and then obviously their addition to 6 and 10, and their basic facts, we want at 30 problems per minute. And again, that's 1 problem every 2 seconds. And so again, those are pretty attainable numbers from the data we have. Okay, so moving forward, let's talk about the assessments first. And so the assessments for gateway skills, obviously these are kind of developed into 2 sections, and this will be used by your kindergarten teachers or for students that are exhibiting deficits in older grades. We have 2 different assessments. One targets numbers 1 through 10. And then after kids meet criteria in 1 through 10, then we obviously go 1 through 20. And so the first one is just oral counting. So the directions are simply, I want to hear you count. Start at 1 and count to 10. Ready, begin. And so you listen to the kid count. Typically they'll do it, mastery is to do this within 10 seconds. When kids really haven't mastered, they'll do it in 3 to 5 seconds. And this is a skill a lot of kids come into school with, but it's still, again, good to, practice those and build that automaticity. Number identification fluency is the next one. And so here you'll see on the worksheet, just random presentation of numbers. I want to hear you say the numbers, start here and work across the page. So ready, begin. And then again, it gives you an accuracy score. If they don't get one within 3 seconds, you just tell them to go to the next. And so obviously you have a fluency score. They got these 10 items in this many seconds. Mastery would be within 10 seconds. And then finally, number writing fluency, we want 100% accuracy. And then again, 1 number per 2 seconds. So that gives them about 20 seconds to go ahead and write 1 through 10. Okay. Any questions from anybody so far? All right, I will keep going on here. So again, I keep using these terms, dot number total. When you see them, you'll be like, okay, yeah, that's what it means. These are pretty simple materials. I went in the kindergarten classrooms. I observed teachers, what they were doing, what they were teaching, and some of the criticisms I've heard of, some of the early numeracy screeners is they don't necessarily, they screen really well and they meet those psychometrics, but it doesn't necessarily match exactly what's being done in classrooms and the behaviors that we're wanting to see kids engage in. And so, these, I don't test them out psychometrically for screening activities. This is all about intervention. And so these are tasks that have social validity, that teachers have indicated to me that this is what I want to see my students do. And so when we think about number sense, so dot number is obviously at this point, kids will be able to orally count, they'll be able to identify numbers and write numbers, but we want them to understand what numbers mean, right? And so obviously a numeral goes ahead and represents a quantity, and this is, really the big concept here we're trying to teach. But anyway, we'll assess them, and as you see, they look at an array of dots, and then they will just write the number in to the right side. They'll have 30 seconds or a minute to do as many of those as possible, and we want to see that score of 20 problems per minute. And then when I get to the intervention materials, basically the first skills we looked at, those are in kind of 2-week increments, and then these will be in 4-week increments. And so obviously, and the other thing I want to say, because sure the kindergarten teachers are like, what's this guy saying? Like, kids can't write at the beginning of the year, or not all kids can. So these intervention materials, there's going to be some paper pencil, but there's also going to be, all of these things will be up on the PowerPoint, or on the smartboard. And so really how these are meant to look with the oral counting and the number identification, and obviously this dot number and the dot number total you're going to see next. This will be basically, you'll do it at carpet time. Kids will see these stimuli up on the board, and the teacher, the PowerPoint will present and provide, will pace the stuff, and teacher's job will be to pace and signal student responding. And so just trying to get this so you guys know what's coming up. Okay, and so that's dot number total. Again, pre-test, post-test will be 3 weeks of intervention. The first week would be oral responding, and then the second week and third week you'll do written responding. And obviously teachers can do a hybrid approach. Some teachers I've worked with, they're just like, it's really important that kids are doing both. We want kids to orally respond, but then we also want them to respond from a written place. And so obviously they look at this, and what we want from the assessment is for them just to write a 4 down here, and then this over here with the dots provides them with the cue. If they don't know what 0 plus 4 is, they'll know at least at this point I could just count 1, 2, 3, 4, and then if they can do these earlier skills, right, where they can see 4 dots and write a 4, they should be able to kind of do that down here. And so this is really just about, you can get those dots individually. Now let's put them together, combine those to a new whole, right? So we got, the first introduction to kind of part whole. And again, remember, in your core curriculum, they would have already been doing this with concretes and manipulatives. And so again, if students are seeing this for the first time in these materials, then you are introducing it too early. And so again, this isn't meant to be a standalone, teach kids how to do this. This is, the core curriculum is already, focused on all of these sub skills. And so this is really that opportunity for kids to engage in that daily practice so they can build the skill. And then we move on to basic number combinations. And so this is an example of sums to 6. And so, this is an example of sums to 10, but we also have sums to 6. And so kids will transition from this to sums to 6, and then once they go from sums to 6, they'll go to sums to 10 here. And so, and this is really traditional with what you'll typically see where you give kids a minute of timed practice, and you see how many problems per minute that they do. And that's the other thing I do want people to get from this. The original Mind used a lot of digits correct per minute data, and that was something I got feedback from teachers that it's complicated to score, and so we're going ahead and switching that, and it is simply a problems per minute metric now. I think Ben Solomon and Amanda Vanderheyden recently released a research article called the Goldilocks effect, and they talked about that. And so there's really no difference psychometrically whether you use digits correct or problems per minute, and this is a little more straightforward and simple for teachers. Okay, so now let's move on to early numeracy intervention materials. And so obviously we start with the facts on fire, oral counting fluency. Again, there is no paper pencil component to this. This will just be on the smartboard. And we have this oral counting fluency target set. We have it condensed into, it says 25 days because we did 0 through 20, but we got rid of that. So now it's going to be 20 days. And basically you start with numbers 1 through 5 the first week, then you go 6 through 10 the second week, 11 through 15 the third week, and 16 through 20 on the fourth week. These will be done in front of the smartboard. And so, when I talked with teachers, they were, one of the things, Beth Madden is a teacher that I've worked with a lot, and she coached and would get feedback from her teachers. And she was just like, Ponce, what they need really short things. Not only could they do it in the morning, but if they want to do it at transition, but they need something that's not 5 minutes, 10 minutes. And plus, obviously, with kindergartners, really short. So these interventions are 90 seconds. And so it's something, again, you get up on the smartboard, you'll press play. It will kind of instruct students on what to do. It's the same structure every single time. And so, after you kind of teach it to them and they practice it for a few days, they have it down. And so as you'll hear, and I'll play all of these so you see exactly, what they are, not exactly what they look like, because, you're going to see a different split screen, but you'll see what the smartboard will look like. And so we have an intervention session format. The first time through will be oral counting is modeled across the previous and target numerals. And so, for example, I'm going to go over lessons for 6 through 10 here. And so kids have already been taught 1 through 5, but the first time through, it's going to count from 1 to 10. And so they're going to look at what they've already done and review it, and then they're going to add the new 6 through 10. Then the second will be oral counting modeled with target numerals. And all this means is literally the PowerPoint is going to, or the smartboard will show the numbers and it will read the numbers. And so it's basically modeling it for the students. It does that 2 times. Then the third time, students are signaled to orally count with the audio. And also you're going to see where the numbers kind of highlight when the teacher's supposed to signal. And again, it may sound complicated when you see it. You're going to see like, okay, they'll get this, they'll follow, but the teacher's basically in front. They're going to be, they're going to be pacing it and signaling students. And so the fourth, students are signaled and orally count independently. They do that 2 times. And then finally, they're signaled and orally count across all 10 numbers. And so like when they go through 11 through 15, it'll be 5 through 10 and 11 through 15. And then when they go from 16 to 20, it'll revisit 11 through 15, and it'll do the repetitions on 16 to 20. And so let me go ahead and I'm going to stop share here. I'm going to get this started and reshare. I think that's the best way to ensure everybody can see what they need to see.
First, listen as I read the numbers aloud. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Listen again as I read the numbers aloud. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now let's say the numbers together. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now let's say the numbers by yourself.
So this is when the teacher would signal. So you could do it with a snap, 8, 9, 10. And so you can imagine your kids would
Again,
just say
say the
it
numbers by
together.
yourself. One last time, read these all by yourself.
Okay, was everybody able to see that? Okay, awesome. I'm sorry here. Okay. All right, so now we go to, and also if people have questions, let me open this up. And if you guys, all right, awesome. I got the chat open. And so if people have questions, you can go ahead and interrupt, but if you'd rather just put something in the chat, I'll keep that open. And so obviously I think oral counting hopefully is pretty easy for everybody to follow. The next skill obviously would be number identification. And this is set up in the same way, right? Where you start with numbers 1 through 5, 6 through 10, 11 through 15, 16 through 20. And again, I hope everybody's realizing, with oral counting, you can do it without visual stimuli, just like you can do, you can do phonological awareness without the, without letters. But obviously it works better when you kind of present it along with letters. And I think the same will be the case here. And so I'll be interested, as people do this, what percentage of kids will begin to identify numbers just from, kind of doing the oral counting, with those numbers kind of getting larger and presenting. But anyway, it's always in order. So as you'll see in the number identification, the smart board reviews the 5 numerals from the last set for 1 repetition, and then 5 new target numerals for 4 repetitions. These will be in random order. This is based off a taped problems or taped numbers intervention. I can go ahead and provide a link to that study if anybody is interested. And so this session format, the smart board basically will show a number and it'll tick to kind of signal, here's the number. A 2-second delay is given where kids are signaled to say the number, and then the PowerPoint says the number. And so it basically cues it. We signal kids to retrieve it, and then we provide immediate feedback on whether the correct response was made. Okay, and since this is group administered, we're going to obviously having a little technical difficulties as usual here. Okay, I'm going to call this up.
Two.
So you'd signal and the kids would be like 5.
5.
And then they would hear the 5, signal 1.
1. 0. 4. 3, 6, 8, 7, 10, 9, 10, 6, 9, 7, 8.
Okay, I'm not going to go through that entire intervention session for you there. That was about halfway through. And so I just do want everybody to realize this isn't, again, the purpose of these intervention materials have always been to try to be efficient, high intensity, high OTRs, but, kind of consistent. Kids know what they're getting every day, that kind of thing. And so then obviously number writing is a huge one. And this is something that will probably just need to be worked on all through kindergarten and first grade. But really important, but very similar as far as, again, broken down into 1 through 5, 6 through 10, 11 through 15, 16 through 20. This will be a pretty large book, or set of handouts for you guys to download, 98 pages. But reviews 5 target numerals from the last set 2 times. So here, for example, is 6 through 10. So you see kind of 1 through 5 here, and it provides a model. Oh, hold on here, you guys. All right, sorry, you guys should have let me know that wasn't up. I'm so sorry. So number writing, again, so this is an example of 6 through 10. And so, but basically, obviously, we always want to review what we've kind of done in the past. So this provides that model for them to go ahead and write the number underneath to make sure they got it right. This would be the new skill. And so with that underneath, you can see it has something that the students can trace. And then, another independent kind of retrieval of the skill here, or with the model. And then there's another set of numerals underneath these models that's faded even more. And then obviously here they get to practice the 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And again, it just fades it. And then the second row, they will kind of write by themselves. Okay. And so again, that would be a daily lesson, that they would do. And so again, the session format model of the number is provided, cues are faded, independent responding, and then new and old sets are combined. And so again, this is a 98-page book. So they do this, they basically would kind of work on this skill for a week, and then they'd go on to the next for a week that would combine 2 things like 6 through 10, and then they would focus on 11 through 15, and they would review 6 through 10 and builds. And then after that kind of, after they did that for 2 weeks, you could go ahead and assess them writing their 1 through 10. It gives you feedback. Do we need to have them do it a second time? Can we go ahead and move them on, to a different skill? Okay, so number sense interventions. Now, so this is called Facts on Fire. And the whole notion of Facts on Fire and what we're trying to build in here is we're actually putting this this visual on the side that says warm, hot, on fire, and nuclear. And what we want to do is to try and give kids a certain amount of time. And so they basically, like, this would be 6 responses, right? And so we want kids to go ahead and do this skill at 20 per minute. And so if you think about it, right, you got 6, 12, 18, and so they have 21 responses here. And so what we would want to do here ultimately, a kid would want to finish this and get the nuclear. That would be mastery. If you see a lot of kids finishing it, instead of doing a minute timing, you could put it to 30 seconds, right? And then obviously where it would take a minute to get through all these at kind of the criteria level, they would get through half of them, and that would be where they would need to be. And so again, you can do this by looking at minute, and or you could do it 30 seconds. And I say that for kindergarten teachers because um, we want kids to be successful. We don't want them to be frustrated with this. And so, you may start off at, with a minute timing. And then when kids start complaining it's too easy and they are finishing up, then you could go ahead and you could switch it, to a 30-second timing and kind of re-situate and re-challenge the students there. But one of the things I want people to recognize is as we kind of are going through these early numeracy skills, in order for a child to be able to do this task, they need certain prerequisite skills. And so they're going to need to be able to orally count and have verbal chains, right? So sums to 6 in this case. But obviously sums to 10 if I was going to expand this out and put in number sets up to 10. But they need to be able to orally count, identify their numbers, and obviously be able to write their numbers. And then obviously they obviously need the procedural skill of one-to-one correspondence. So obviously they need to be able to do that. Skill supports the concept of number. So numerals represent the amount or quantity. And then skill supports concept of cardinality. So numbers represent a quantity or a size of a set of items. There's people will debate oftentimes about, is this just mimicry, and obviously all of these tasks are behaviors that if I when I go and I talk to kindergartners or kindergarten teachers and I say, what behavior should your students engage in, that I think that so they understand certain things, they're going to want one-to-one correspondence. Teachers say they want them to be able to look at number sets and say what the quantity is. And so here is what this intervention will look like.
One, two, two. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5. 0. 1, 2, 3. 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6. 1, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4. 1, 2, 3. 3. 0. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6. 1, 2, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5.
Okay. And so then that would be that intervention. Okay, getting back. So then after, they can orally count, identify their numbers, write their numbers, now they start, with that piece of the dot number. Then we move to dot number total. And so prerequisites here are a lot of the same ones: oral counting, number identification. This is where the vocabulary starts to come in, right? Because we're going to have to start teaching the student what the plus sign means, what the equal sign means, And then they're going to, the procedural skills, they're going to need to count a set of objects, so the one-to-one correspondence, and then begin to combine two different sets of objects to calculate the whole. And so again, I'm assuming in that core curriculum, people have already have already began to, take concrete sets of different items and combine those into part wholes. And so again, this won't be the first time that students see this. And so this is obviously the paper pencil piece of what you would see. But as we introduce, probably in your carpet time or up in front of the smart board, we could go ahead and kind of start and use this app. And so I will go ahead and show you guys what this looks like.
Three plus 1 equals 1, 2, 3, 4. 4. 3 plus 1 equals 4. 1 plus 2 equals 1, 2, 3. 3. 1 plus 2 equals 3. 0 plus 2 equals 1, 2. 2. 0 plus 2 equals 2. 4 plus 2 equals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6. 4 plus 2 equals 6. 1 plus 5 equals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Okay. And so I hope people get, like, as a teacher, you're going to be up there, and again, you're going to have to train kids to do this. And the first day or so, it's probably going to be a bit chaotic. We're going to do everything we can to ease that and smooth that transition. But I hope everybody can see where, it's very cadenced, and kids will get, they'll know, kind of the structure and what's happening. And then also for a majority of kids, the goal is for them to hit that mastery, for of every prerequisite skill. And so when you move from dot number to dot number total, them seeing a one dot plus three dots. I mean, they can identify the dots, they know the number, they can do the number, the one-to-one correspondence. And so even though there's a lot of components to it, they've mastered those components. And so it really should just be like all these interventions, as you should see, are just kind of layering in one new thing each time that they kind of focus in to, as they move forward. So anyway, let me get this. Not doing a good job here. I closed this down. Okay. Anybody have any questions that they want to put in the chat at this point? Or is everything just making crystal clear sense to people? Okay, great question. Um, yeah, so the first question is this only available when the new site is available in August? Yes, that's when they will be made available. And the other thing is, why do you prefer in 4+2 to count all as opposed to counting on from the 4? And that's a fantastic question. So what you're going to see is when we go to sums to 6, which is next, they're going to go ahead and they're going to work on sums to 6, and then we're going to have what we call extensions. And with the extensions, then that's when we're going to start to specifically transition them from a count on to a count up procedure. And so it's coming. And again, in your core curriculum, you're likely, telling kids to go ahead and do this very thing. And so it's coming. But yes, and I figured that would be a concern of some. And so, but we will go ahead and get there. Originally, when we did the dot number total, we would focus on that. And so it just, if we want a standard protocol, and again, we can certainly add that in. And so as we do this, I'm certainly going to keep that's on my radar. It's a fantastic question. So thank you so much for that. Any other questions? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and move forward. And so now we're getting to the basic fact intervention materials. And so students, when we get to this, will receive a 30 to 45 lesson workbook, or you'll print out sheets. It's around 74 pages for like sums to 6, sums to 10, and subtraction from 10. For sums to 18, it's 114 pages. And I'll go ahead what this looks like on a day-to-day basis. But teachers will access a PowerPoint to guide daily intervention on the smartboard. K1 teachers will lead students to corally respond. Grades 1 through 5 will write answers. And again, my conversation with kindergarten teachers is there's times that kids can do it orally with the smartboard, but you're going to want kids to start, engaging in some of these written responses as well. But tape problems with 4 sets, and this takes 3 to 4 minutes. And then we do explicit timing with goal setting and reward to support daily retrieval practice. And this is the Facts on Fire piece that takes a minute to 2 minutes because you have to do the students are going to count the number of problems that they complete, and they're going to write that at the top of the page, and then and transmit that to the next so they can goal set. And then once we get through 10 sessions, we're going to do a warming up activity where we practice all sets. And I will take you guys through exactly what this looks like if you're like, I'm confused. So if we think about, so I'm just going to look at set sums to 10 here. And so it starts with these small sets, right? So set A and set B, 2 sets of so someone asked the question, will this be available for grades up to 5th? Yes, today's presentation is over K1. Tomorrow I'm going to be presenting and go grades 2 through 4. And those are just your 4 basic operations. Next year, we plan on extending this to 5th and doing some fractions, decimals, but that won't be available for another year. But anyway, back to the problem sets. So basically, things start with a daily of tape problems and kind of explicit timing. And what you'll see is it'll start with these small sets. So when I say 1, 2, 3, 4, these are the actual 4 problems that it'll start with. And so then the next day, though, well, with these, it'll basically do 1 through 4 the first 2 days. And then the third day will be basically 2 through 5, and then 3 through 6, then 4 through 7, and 5 through 8. And so it takes it 5 days, but after the 5 days, now you've you've cycled through all 8 problems, and then it goes ahead and reviews those. And after they do that for 10 straight days, now, all students should, kind of be accurate and fluent in each of those. And then we do that daily retrieval practice. And then once that's done, we start with set B and we practice that. But then we also fold in those 8 set A problems. So again, we're doing that interleaved practice. And so this is what an initial tape problems worksheet would look like. And so if you're at the end of the year in kindergarten, beginning of the year in first grade, this would be what the initial worksheet would look like. And so as you'll see, 5 plus 5, 2 plus 4, 6 plus 3, 8 plus 2. And then that's literally repeated 6 times. And so kids are getting a lot of repetition on these. And so the first one, the PowerPoint takes you through, and it literally is a drill and practice. So it's literally would be like 5 plus 5 is 10. 5 plus 5 is, it provides that, that time delay that they've been used to because they've been having it the whole time, right? And then they'll say, then they answer, or the smart board will say 10, and the students try to beat that. They do that for the first 4 problems to ensure everybody kind of gets that accuracy building piece, and then they go to the tape problems. And I have a video of a teacher doing this, and I'll show this to you. And so items are interspersed with a controlled flow. That's what I explained the last one, as far as the items 1 through 4, 2 through 5, 3 through 6, 4 through 7. And then students will get each problem for 3 to 4 lessons. All items are systematically reviewed daily, and we get that through our Facts on Fire component. Okay, so before we go to that, this is where I've been having some technical difficulties. I'm going to see if I can't get this video up. Please bear with me.
Remember when we respond to the whole class? So when I point to you, you're going to
All right,
respond. So let's practice.
Is everybody seeing the video here? Yes or no?
Oh, good job. Okay, 15. 27. 1058.
We're not seeing the video, Dr.
All
Ponce.
right. All right. I was afraid of that. Okay, that video showed, I hope everybody could hear the choral responding there. And so I apologize for that. Let me try one more thing.
Remember when we respond?
Yeah, I apologize. This was working last night. Something's gone wrong with this particular link. So the rest of the links work as far as the videos. But that was basically going to show, it was a teacher at the front. She was in front of the smart board. And in essence, she was going over how to chorally respond on signal. And then the tape problems was going to be presented. I'm going to go ahead and skip forward to this video. And this is a 2nd grade classroom.
Start off and work across the page. Do not skip problems and do your best to correct and complete as many problems as possible. Ready? Begin.
Okay, so this is a warming up. So this is the warming up. So I'm sorry, this isn't the tape problems. But so this would have been after they'd done the 10 days, and these are the problems they had already done. Okay. So anyway, I'm terribly sorry for this one video not working. But anyway, so the facts on fire piece, so anyway, we're going to do tape problems. And again, it's on the smart board. It reads it. The students have to beat the tape. They move across and write those. The facts on fire, I don't know why these, what's going on here? Sorry. Facts on fire here. Again, this is 1 minute timing. And so basically kids, will complete this for a minute because it's assumed that they are accurate. They'll go ahead and they'll count the number of problems that they do correctly in that minute. They write the number down here and the number correct. And then they'll go ahead and they'll translate this in the booklet to the next one. And so they're obviously every time trying to beat their score. So we got 0 through 12 problems. They'll be warm. 13 through 24 is hot. 25 through 36 is on fire. So that would be that right here would be that, that 30 threshold, 30 problems per minute. And then obviously, also problems are continually added. And so when they would start, like when you first start, literally it's, like on a sums to 10, there's only going to be 8 problems. I mean, it's going to start off with only 4 problems. And then after you visit all 8, then it's going to go to 8. Then when you kind of fold in the next 4 and you get to 12, it's going to look at 12. And so it's small sets to build that initial fluency. And then they're folded together so you're interleaving that practice. And then the warming up is the video that you just saw. And so again, this will just be 2-minute timings. And this is important because, this would be like 8 problems on the first set. But when you get to the second set, this would be all 16 problems, right? So it's basically everything you're trying to teach with the sums to 10. Okay, so now, assuming students, we've kind of made it through and we've done the fact practice. Now we're going to talk about numeracy intervention, the extensions. And so you'll see on that scope and sequence that once you do sums to 6 and kids are at 60, and kids are at, mastery criteria, now you're going to move on to extensions. And the program was streamlined to support class-wide administration. And so in those initials, it's class-wide, all the kids are going to be working on the same problems. But the extensions are designed to provide tiered supports for 4 to 6 weeks following basic skill intervention. And so, for example, students here could, they would, so if a student scored at a certain place, they're going to go ahead and do the same facts on fire intervention, but they'll double the dose. If students are in an instructional level, like 15 to 30 problems per minute, they're just going to do daily kind of time practice. And then students that are at master would receive intervention on advanced skills in the operation. And so here are what I don't know why this. So here's the extension. So sums to 6, we got the large and in charge extension, and this gets students to move on from count up to count on procedures. And then we're going to have the sibling say extension, and this will be cover, copy, compare with reciprocals. And then on sums to 10, we'll revisit the large and in charge extension. And, and this again gets students to move up from count up to count on procedures. But what you're going to want to see is, when they kind of learn how to do these extensions in sums to 6, now when they're kind of faced with the same type of task in sums to 10, does that go ahead and generalize? And then obviously a place value extension, multi-digit computation. And so this would be like 3 plus 3 digit without regrouping. And this would be a time for people to work, or for students to work on ones, tens, and hundreds. And then sums to 18, we have fact families with close problems, and then adding up to subtract extension using close addition skills to support subtraction fluency, and then regrouping extension, multi-digit computation with the regrouping piece. Okay, so somebody did ask about this kind of count up procedure, and so what this would look like is so obviously they're working on number writing fluency, but sums to 6. And so in this extension, what you'll see is we're going to have a worksheet where the big number is always first. And then we're going to have another sheet where the big number is always on the bottom. And then we'll have a third sheet where these are perfectly balanced. It's, the big numbers on top sometimes, the big numbers on bottom. And the reason we're going to do that is we're going to assess them with the big number first and then the big number on the bottom. And so as the teacher pointed out, we want kids obviously to count up at times, right? It's going to kind of save them time. And so what will be interesting with this is we actually will be able to take the students' fluency data, and when they're starting with the large number first, they'll probably be really fast. And then, like if you have a kid that looks at 1 plus 5 and they don't start with the 5 and count up 1, then obviously their digits correct, or their problems per minute score is going to lessen. And then when we have the balanced, the balance, sometimes they'll have the high number on top, high number on bottom. And it really should give us 3 different scores, right? Like if a child's not doing the count up procedure. So they'll obviously have a low score when the big number's on the bottom. They'll have a high score when the big number's on top, and a medium score when they're mixed. So why is this important? Well, so then we take a balanced worksheet, and I'm going to give them a minute, and they're basically just going to go through the probe and circle the larger number. Okay, and after they do that for a minute, then we're going to give them 2 minutes, and they're going to complete as many problems as possible in 2 minutes using an add up procedure. And then we're going to give them another alternate form of the balance problems, and we're going to basically give them a 1 minute timed assessment in that. And so if you think about it, right, if they do time practice for a minute in the balance program, when it begins to approach the big number first probe that they did initially, then that will kind of be your evidence that they're kind of generalizing that add up procedure. Does that make sense to everybody? And so then if they go ahead and they do that, on the sums to 10, on the sums to 6, then when we move to sums to 10, what you hope to see, right, is if kids are going to go ahead and generalize that, then you will see, the students right away, regardless of whether it's the big number first, big number second, or balanced, they'll have similar scores, if that makes kind of sense. And so the addition sibling say extension, this students will start again after reaching mastery on sums to 6, sums to 10, and basically use cover, copy, compare procedures. And we'll have a target set, then we'll have a reciprocal set. And what that means is on the target set, it may be 9 plus 8, but the reciprocal set, it would be 8 plus 9. And so first we're going to see if that generalizes. The intervention piece, they will look at the 9 plus 8 is 17. They'll say it, cover it, and then here they'll write the reciprocal. So they'll write 8 plus 9 is 17. And so again, they're going to get practice, kind of the siblings say, basically this is a brother or sister problem. If you know 9 plus 8, you know 8 plus 9. Okay, and then addition place value extension. Basically, this will just be, this is 3x3 digit addition without regrouping. And obviously this is where teachers can work on making sure kids know this is the ones place, tens place, hundreds place. Obviously, you'll teach them to go from right to left. You can teach them to go from left to right here, so they know that this isn't 3 plus 5 right here, right? This is 300 plus 500, 60 plus 30, 2 plus 5. And so we can begin again to kind of have those, kind of have those lessons. Model, lead, retrieve is the kind of way that we're going to do this. The teacher works the example, provides the place value vocabulary, then the students work problem, they describe the problems, and in the retrieve piece, they go ahead and independently practice these things. Okay, so I'm going to skip over, there's a piece here on increasing engagement using interdependent group contingencies. We're running a little low on time, so I'm going to skip that. This will be, I'll put this in tomorrow's presentation as well. No theory today. I didn't have time. I apologize for the technical difficulties with the video. So no theory today. I just really wanted to be like an overview of here's the materials, here's how it's all, kind of scope and sequenced out. Here's what the assessments are. Here's the intervention materials. So again, kindergarten, Smartboard based, counting number ID, number writing, dot number total sums to 6. First grade, dot number total sums to 6, sums to 10. In August, the skill extensions will exist, and those focus on commutative property, moving from count by to count up procedures, algebraic skills, and then place value and multi-digit addition. Thank you. If you guys want to contact me, here is my email, me on X. This experts.okstate.edu is something my university has set up for me. And so I have podcasts and different presentations. So if you are interested in theory, you can certainly go there. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and open it up for questions, and I appreciate everybody's participation today.